"Sir, can I have a piece of bread?" The little girl said, who is humiliated, but a millionaire saw her and did something shocking. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to my channel. I promise to bring you videos every day that will make your life happier. Comment what you thought of my story by giving it a rating from 0 to 10, and thank you very much. The biting chill of a November morning in Oak Ridge, Illinois, made people walk faster through the downtown streets, huddled in their coats and scarves. It was 7:30 in the morning when Arthur Blackwood, 52, parked his black sedan in front of the Daily Bread Bakery, as he had done every morning for the past 15 years. His routine was always the same: 2 fresh rolls, a black coffee with a splash of cream, and the local newspaper before heading to his packaging company. But on that frigid morning, something different caught his eye. A tiny girl was crouched on the sidewalk next to the bakery door. Her clothes were inadequate for the cold, a torn t-shirt and a dirty skirt that barely protected her from the icy wind. Her bare feet were purple from the cold, and she trembled as she held out a small, dirty hand to passers-by. "Please, mister," she said in a weak, hoarse voice, "a little change for some bread." Arthur stopped on the sidewalk, watching the child. She couldn't be more than 4 years old. Her brown hair was matted and dirty, and her large, dark eyes held a sadness that made something tighten in his chest. Most people passed her as if she didn't exist. Some looked on with contempt, others quickly averted their gaze. Arthur felt a growing discomfort inside him, a feeling he hadn't experienced in a long time. That's when Frank, the burly and ill-tempered baker, came out of the bakery carrying a broom. "Lily, how many times have I told you not to hang around my door?" he shouted, brandishing the broom in the girl's direction. "You scare away the customers. Get out of here, you filthy little pest." The girl flinched but didn't move. Her eyes filled with tears, but she remained there, trembling from cold and fear. "I'm not going to repeat myself," Frank continued, his voice echoing down the street. "You and that good-for-nothing grandmother of yours need to find something to do with your lives. Stop bothering hard-working people." Several customers entering and leaving the bakery stopped to watch the scene. Some laughed. Others made derogatory comments about those people who don't want to work. Arthur felt a strange anger rising in his chest. "Please, Mr. Frank," Lily pleaded, her voice almost a whisper. "I need to buy medicine for my grandma. She's really sick." "Not my problem," the baker growled. "And if I catch you here again, I'm calling the police." Frank raised the broom as if to strike the child. Lily cowered even more, covering her head with her thin arms. It was in that moment that something inside Arthur broke. "Stop!" he yelled, striding toward the baker. "What are you doing?" Frank turned, surprised. He recognized Arthur immediately. He was one of his oldest and most influential customers. "Oh, Mr. Blackwood, good morning. I was just handling a little problem here," Frank said, trying to smile as he lowered the broom. "A little problem?" Arthur repeated, his voice thick with indignation. "You were threatening a child." "No, sir, it's not like that," Frank stammered. "It's just that this girl is here every day, bothering the customers. It's bad for business, you understand." Arthur looked at Lily, who was still huddled on the ground, watching everything with her big, frightened eyes. Something in her expression touched him deeply, awakening memories he had buried for decades. "How much do you need for the medicine?" Arthur asked, crouching down to the girl's level. Lily looked at him with a mixture of suspicion and hope. $20, mister," she murmured. Arthur took his wallet out of his pocket and pulled out a $50 bill. "Here," he said, placing the money in the child's cold little hand. "And take this too." He went into the bakery, ignoring Frank's confused stare, and bought 2 rolls, a hot chocolate and a package of cookies. When he came out, he gave everything to Lily. "Thank you, mister," she said, her eyes filling with tears of gratitude. "God bless you." The girl stood up with difficulty, her thin legs barely able to support her. She began to walk away, limping slightly. Arthur stood on the sidewalk, watching her go. A strange curiosity, mixed with a compassion he hadn't felt in years, took hold of him. Without really thinking about what he was doing, he started to follow her. Lily walked slowly through the downtown streets, stopping now and then to rest. Arthur kept a safe distance, not wanting to scare her, but determined to find out where she lived. The girl left the busy downtown streets and entered a poorer neighborhood of the city. The houses were simple, some in need of repair. Lily continued walking until she reached an even more precarious area, where the structures were just shacks made of corrugated tin and old shingles. She stopped in front of a particularly small and dilapidated shack. The structure looked like it was about to collapse, with cracked walls and windows without glass, covered only by pieces of plastic. Arthur hid behind a tree and watched as Lily went through the door that was barely hanging on its hinges. "Grandma! Grandma, I brought food!" he heard her shout from inside. A weak, hoarse voice answered something incomprehensible. Arthur moved a little closer, trying to hear better. "I know you're in pain, Grandma," Lily was saying. "But look, an angel gave me money for the medicine, and he brought warm bread too." Arthur felt his heart ache as he heard the joy in the child's voice. She had called him an angel. For a few minutes, he just stood there, listening to the sounds coming from inside the shack. Lily hummed softly, as she seemed to be caring for someone. Occasionally, an elderly voice murmured words he couldn't understand. When he finally decided to leave, Arthur was deeply disturbed. The image of that child taking care of a sick person alone, living in such precarious conditions, wouldn't leave his mind. All the way back downtown, and then throughout the entire workday at his packaging company, he couldn't concentrate on anything else. The meetings, the reports, the important decisions, everything seemed meaningless compared to that little girl who had called him an angel. That night, in his comfortable home in Oak Ridge's upscale neighborhood, Arthur couldn't sleep. His wife, Brenda, 48, complained about the light being on and the noise he made tossing and turning in bed. "What is going on with you?" she asked, irritated. "Nothing," Arthur lied. "Just thinking about business." But it wasn't business that was keeping him awake. It was the face of that child, her big, sad eyes, the way she had thanked him for a simple act of kindness. And above all, it was the unsettling feeling that there was something about that situation that connected him to a past he had spent decades trying to forget. When he finally managed to fall asleep, well past 3 in the morning, Arthur dreamed of a small, scared boy, alone in a cold and hostile place, begging for a bit of affection that never came. The next morning, Arthur woke with a strange feeling in his chest. The dreams from the night before still echoed in his mind. Confused fragments of memories from an orphanage, distant voices of crying children, and Lily's face blending with his own memories of abandonment. Brenda had already left for her morning Pilates class when he went downstairs for coffee. The house was silent, impeccably cleaned by the maid, but somehow it felt cold and empty. Arthur looked out the kitchen window at the well-manicured garden and thought of the stark contrast with the shack where that child lived. He couldn't get Lily out of his head. During breakfast, he tried to convince himself that he had fulfilled his moral duty. He had helped the girl, given her money for her grandmother's medicine, bought her food. His conscience was clear. He could go back to his normal routine. But when he arrived at the Daily Bread bakery, as he always did, he stopped the car and stared at the sidewalk where Lily had been the day before. There was no sign of her. He felt a pang of worry. "Good morning, Mr. Blackwood." Frank greeted him with a forced smile when he entered the bakery. "The usual?" "Where's the girl?" Arthur asked, ignoring the baker's question. "What girl?" Frank asked, feigning ignorance. "Lily, the child who was here yesterday." Frank lowered his voice and leaned over the counter. Ah, that little pest. Didn't show up today, thank God. Maybe she got the message that she's not welcome here. Arthur felt a surge of irritation. She's just a child. A child who bothers my customers, Frank retorted. Look, Mr. Blackwood, you're a businessman. You understand how these things work. I can't have beggars at my door. Arthur paid for his rolls in silence and left the bakery, more disturbed than before. Instead of going directly to his company, he decided to drive through the neighborhood where he had followed Lily the day before. When he reached the area with the shacks, he parked his car at a safe distance and walked to where he remembered seeing the girl enter. The shack was silent. There was no movement, no sounds coming from inside. Arthur stood there for a few minutes, not knowing what to do. He couldn't just knock on the door. It would be an invasion of privacy. But the worry consumed him. That's when he heard a faint voice from inside the shack. Water. Please. Water. It was an elderly, female voice, heavy with suffering. Arthur hesitated for a moment, then approached the flimsy door. "Excuse me," he called out softly. The silence that followed was tense. Then he heard small footsteps approaching. "Who is it?" Lily's voice asked, suspicious. "It's me, the man who helped you yesterday. The angel," Arthur said, feeling strange using the word she had spoken. The door opened slowly, revealing Lily's small face. She looked at him with surprise and a little fear. "Hi, mister," she said, her voice even weaker than the day before. "Hi, Lily. Are you okay?" The girl nodded, but Arthur could see she was even paler and thinner than the day before. Her clothes were the same, dirty and unsuitable for the persistent cold. "And your grandmother, how is she?" Lily's eyes filled with tears. "She's very sick, mister. She can't get out of bed. She keeps saying strange things, calling out names of people I don't know. Can I come in? Maybe I can help." Lily hesitated, looking back. "Grandma doesn't like strangers. She gets scared." "I understand, but I'm a doctor," Arthur lied, surprising himself. He didn't know why he had said that. "I can take a look at her." The lie worked. Lily opened the door wider and invited him in. The inside of the shack was even worse than Arthur had imagined. The space was tiny, with just one room that served as a bedroom, living room, and kitchen. The floor was packed earth, covered with pieces of old carpet. There was water damage on the walls, and the ceiling dripped in several places. In one corner, on a thin, dirty mattress, lay an elderly woman. Her white hair was disheveled, and she mumbled incomprehensible words. Her eyes were closed, and she trembled under a thin, torn blanket. "Grandma, the doctor came to see you," Lily said, crouching beside the bed. The old woman slowly opened her eyes. They were brown eyes, still bright despite her age and illness. When she saw Arthur, something strange happened. Her face contorted as if she were trying to remember something. "Arthur?" she murmured, her voice hoarse and confused. Arthur froze. He felt as if the floor had disappeared from under his feet. "What did she say?" he asked, his voice louder than he intended. "She always says that name," Lily explained innocently. "Arthur. She says it a lot when she's delirious. I think it's someone she knew a long time ago." Arthur approached the bed on trembling legs. The old woman stared at him, her eyes trying to focus. "Arthur, my boy, you've grown," she murmured. "Grandma, this isn't the Arthur you know," Lily said, gently stroking her grandmother's face. "This is the doctor who came to examine you." But the old woman continued to look at him with recognition. "Arthur, from the orphanage, my little Arthur." Arthur's world collapsed in that moment. His legs gave out, and he had to lean against the rickety wall to keep from falling. Memories he had buried deep inside began to surface like an avalanche. St. Clair's orphanage, the 5, darkest years of his childhood. The hunger, the cold, the abuse, and a kind janitor who would sometimes give him an extra piece of bread or a kind word when no one was looking. Ida, he whispered, the name emerging from some deep recess of his memory. The old woman smiled faintly. You remember me, my dear boy? Arthur sat down heavily on the dirt floor, his head spinning. Lily looked at him with confusion and concern. Mister, are you okay? She asked. He couldn't answer. He was reliving fragments of memories he had spent decades trying to forget. Ida had been the only person at the orphanage who showed any affection for the children. She worked there as a janitor, but she always found ways to help the children. A hidden piece of candy, a bandage on a scrape, a kind word in the toughest moments. And now here she was, sick and living in misery, being cared for by her 4-year-old great-granddaughter. Ida, he repeated, his voice choked with emotion. You worked at St. Clair's orphanage. I worked for many years, until they... She tried to speak, but was interrupted by a violent coughing fit. Arthur stood up quickly and went to her. His business instincts took over, mentally organizing what needed to be done. Lily, your grandmother needs urgent medical care. She needs to go to a hospital. We don't have money for a hospital, mister, the girl said sadly. I can only afford the cheapest medicine at the pharmacy. Don't worry about money, Arthur said, pulling out his phone. I'm calling an ambulance right now. No hospital, Ida murmured, agitated. They'll take me away, separate me from Lily. Arthur understood the old woman's fear. People in her situation had reason to mistrust institutions. Nothing is going to happen to you, he said, his voice filled with a determination he hadn't felt in years. I'll take care of everything. Over the next 2 hours, Arthur coordinated what was perhaps the most important operation of his life. He called a private doctor he knew, Dr. Henry Morris, explained the situation, and requested an urgent house call. While they waited for the doctor, he went out to buy medicine, nutritious food, and blankets. When he returned to the shack, he found Lily sitting next to Ida, softly humming a children's song. What a beautiful song, he commented. My mum used to sing it to me, Lily said, before she went to heaven. Now I sing it for Grandma when she's in pain. And where are your parents? Mummy went to heaven when I was very little. Daddy, too. Grandma said they got sick and God needed them up there. Arthur's heart broke. This child had lost her parents and was now alone, caring for a sick elderly woman living in subhuman conditions. When Dr. Morris arrived, he examined Ida carefully. The diagnosis was grim: pneumonia, severe malnutrition, and signs of early-onset dementia aggravated by the high fever. She needs to be hospitalized immediately, the doctor told Arthur, away from Lily. She's in critical condition. Can you treat her here? Here? In these conditions? Impossible. Then arrange for whatever is necessary. Equipment, nurses, medicine. Money is no object. Dr. Morris looked at him, surprised. Arthur, do you realize this will cost a fortune? It doesn't matter. Do whatever it takes. That evening, when Arthur finally returned home, it was almost 10 o'clock. Brenda was waiting for him in the living room, arms crossed and an angry expression on her face. Where have you been? She asked as soon as he walked in. Solving some problems. What problems? I called the office. They said you left early and didn't say where you were going. Arthur sank into an armchair, physically and emotionally exhausted. Brenda, I found people from my past. People who need help. What people? He hesitated. How could he explain to his wife, who had grown up in a wealthy family and had never known hardship, the complexity of what was happening? A woman who knew me when I was a child. She's sick, being cared for by her little great-granddaughter. They're living in horrible conditions. Brenda frowned. And what does that have to do with you? It has everything to do with me, Arthur replied, surprised by the firmness in his own voice. This woman helped me when I needed it most. Now it's my turn to help her. Arthur, you can't just go around playing savior to random people. We have our own responsibilities. They're not random people, he said, standing up, and I'm going to keep helping them, whether you agree or not. It was the first time in 15 years of marriage that Arthur had stood so firmly against his wife's wishes. Brenda fell silent, clearly shocked. As she processed what she had heard, Arthur went up to the bedroom, knowing that his life had changed forever on that cold November day. In the 3 weeks that followed, Arthur's routine changed completely. Every day after work, he would go to visit Lily and Ida. The shack had been transformed. Dr. Morris had installed basic medical equipment, a nurse visited twice a day, and Arthur had provided proper furniture, nutritious food, and clean clothes. Ida was slowly recovering. Her fever had broken, the pneumonia was being treated with potent antibiotics, and she began to have more frequent moments of lucidity. During these moments, she and Arthur talked about the past, filling in painful gaps he had tried to forget. "You were so skinny," Ida would say, stroking his face with her wrinkled hands. "Always scared, always hungry. I did what I could to help, but the orphanage's rules were very strict." Arthur learned that Ida had been fired from St. Clair's orphanage after trying to report the abuse she witnessed. With no work references and being seen as problematic, she had faced decades of financial hardship, surviving on cleaning jobs and laundry work. "Why did you never look for me?" he asked one afternoon. "How could I?" Ida replied sadly. "You were adopted by a wealthy family. You had opportunities I could never give you. I thought it was best to let you live your life without bad memories of the orphanage." Lily, for her part, had transformed completely. With proper nutrition, clean clothes, and medical care, she revealed herself to be an intelligent and caring child. She had grown attached to Arthur in a way that moved him deeply. "Uncle Arthur, are you coming back tomorrow?" she would ask every day when he said, "Goodbye." "I will, my little one." "Promise?" "I promise." It was a promise he never broke, even when he was tired or when Brenda made a scene at home. The tensions with his wife had escalated quickly. Brenda couldn't understand why Arthur was wasting time and money on strangers. The arguments became more frequent and intense. "Arthur, this has gone too far," she said one morning as he was getting ready to leave. "You're spending a fortune on these people. And for what? Because of some unresolved guilt from your childhood? It's not guilt, Brenda, it's responsibility." "Responsibility to whom?" "To an old woman you barely knew and a child who is nothing to you." Brenda's words wounded him deeply. "Ida was more of a mother to me than anyone during the worst years of my life. And Lily, she's an innocent child who needs help." "Then just adopt the girl and be done with it," Brenda shouted in exasperation. "That way you can solve your midlife crisis once and for all." The suggestion had been made with sarcasm, but it planted a seed in Arthur's mind. Adoption. Why hadn't he thought of that before? That afternoon when he arrived at the shack, he found a scene that filled him with tenderness. Lily was sitting beside Ida's bed, reading aloud from a children's book he had bought for her. The girl couldn't quite read yet, so she was actually telling the story based on the pictures, but Ida listened attentively, smiling. "Uncle Arthur," Lily shouted when she saw him arrive. She ran to him and hugged his legs. "Look, I'm telling Grandma a story." "That's wonderful, my dear. What story is it?" "It's about a little bird that was lost and found a new family who took care of him." Arthur felt his heart ache. And was the little bird happy with his new family? He was, because they gave him love just like you give us love. During his visit that afternoon, Arthur watched the dynamic between Lily and Ida closely. The girl cared for her great-grandmother with a touching dedication, helping her take her medicine, fluffing her pillows, singing to her when she was agitated. It was too heavy a responsibility for a 4-year-old child. "Ida," he said when Lily went to get water, "I need to talk to you about the future." The old woman looked at him, attentively. "I know what you're going to say, my dear. I'm getting old, my health is fragile. Lily needs a better life. It's not that, it's that I'd like to take care of both of you. For real. Officially." Ida was silent for a long moment. "Arthur, you've already done so much for us. But you have your own family, your own life. You can't carry our problems forever. You're not a problem. You're family." When Lily came back, Arthur picked her up and said, "Lily, would you like to live in a big house with a room just for you and go to a school with other children?" Lily's eyes lit up. "For real, Uncle Arthur. For real. And Grandma Ida would come too, with all the medical care she needs. And would you be my daddy?" Lily's simple, direct question caught him off guard. He looked into the girl's big, hopeful eyes and felt something break definitively inside his chest. "If you want me to, yes. I want to. I want to so much." That night, Arthur came home determined to have a serious talk with Brenda. He found her in the living room, drinking wine and watching television. "We need to talk," he said, sitting in the armchair opposite her. "Oh, now you want to talk? After weeks of ignoring me. Brenda, I want to adopt Lily." She almost dropped her wine glass. "What? Have you completely lost your mind?" "I've never been more sane in my life. Arthur, we never wanted children. We always agreed that our life would be better without kids." "You never wanted children," he corrected her. "I simply accepted your decision because I thought I didn't have the right to want something different. And now you do? Because of some random child you found on the street? She's not random. And as for having the right, yes, I do. I have the right to correct the mistakes of my past, to be for her what no one was for me when I was lost and alone." Brenda stood up, agitated. "This is crazy. A romantic fantasy. Do you think being a father is a game, that it's just about providing a house and food?" "I know exactly what it's like to be an abandoned and lonely child," Arthur replied, his voice growing firmer. "I know what it's like to need someone who cares, someone to say, 'You matter, you have value,' and I want to be that person for Lily." "And what about me? Our marriage? Are you willing to throw it all away for some fatherhood fantasy?" Arthur was silent for a long moment, analyzing the question. He looked at the luxurious house around him, at his well-dressed and perfumed wife, at the whole life he had built over the past 15 years. "Brenda, when was the last time you looked at me with affection? When was the last time we talked about something other than money, appearances, or social obligations? When was the last time you showed you cared about me as a person, not just as a provider?" She was silent, clearly not expecting these questions. "Our marriage has been over for a long time," he continued. "We just pretended it wasn't. Maybe it's time we admit that." "You're making a terrible mistake," Brenda said, her voice trembling with anger. "And when you regret it, don't come crying to me." "I won't regret it. We'll see." The next morning, Arthur woke to an urgent call from Dr. Morris. "Arthur, I need you to come here immediately. Ida took a turn for the worse during the night." He dressed quickly and rushed to the shack. He found Lily sitting on the floor, hugging her legs, crying. Ida was unconscious in bed, with a nurse checking her vital signs. "What happened?" he asked, picking Lily up. "Grandma couldn't breathe," the girl sobbed. "She was calling your name, Uncle Arthur. She was calling for you." Dr. Morris called him aside for a private conversation. "The situation is delicate. She's had a relapse. Her heart is weak. The pneumonia is back. At her age, with a history of malnutrition." "What are you saying?" "I'm saying we need to prepare for the possibility that she might not recover this time." Arthur looked at Lily, who was holding Ida's hand and whispering words of affection. The girl didn't understand the gravity of the situation, but she sensed that something was very wrong. "How long?" he asked. "Hard to say. It could be days, it could be weeks. It depends on how she responds to the treatment." That afternoon, when Ida briefly awoke, Arthur was by her side. She looked at him with tired but lucid eyes. "My boy," she whispered, "promise me you'll take care of our Lily." "I promise, Ida. She'll have everything she needs. Will she have love?" "She'll have all the love in the world." Ida smiled faintly. "Then I can rest in peace." When she fell back asleep, Arthur realized he was in a race against time. He needed to expedite the adoption process to ensure Lily was legally protected before anything happened to Ida. But most importantly, he needed to prepare himself to explain to a 4-year-old child that sometimes the people we love have to leave, even when we don't want them to go. In the days following Ida's relapse, Arthur lived on an emotional roller coaster. He spent his mornings at the company trying to maintain business as usual, but his mind was constantly back at the shack where a child and an old woman were fighting against circumstances that seemed to conspire against them. It was on a Wednesday afternoon, when he arrived for his daily visit, that he found Lily sitting alone on the dirt floor, drawing with a stick. The nurse was administering medication to Ida, who had been unconscious for 2 days. "Hi, my little one," Arthur said, crouching beside her. "What are you drawing?" Lily looked up, her eyes red from crying. "I'm making a house for Grandma to get better in," she said with touching seriousness, "with big windows to let in lots of sun, because she said the sun is good for her bones." Arthur felt his heart ache. "What a beautiful drawing! What else is in this house?" "There's a room for me, a room for Grandma, and a room for you, if you want to live with us." The child's innocence, planning a future where they would all be together and happy, was both beautiful and devastating. Arthur knew that Ida was losing her battle with the illness, but he couldn't find a way to prepare Lily for this reality. "Lily, you know that sometimes people get very sick and can't get better, right?" The girl stopped drawing and looked at him with her big, intelligent eyes. "Is Grandma going to heaven, like my mommy and daddy?" "I don't know, my dear. But if that happens, you know you won't be alone, right? I'll take care of you. Forever. Forever." Lily dropped the stick and threw herself into Arthur's arms, hugging him tightly. "I love you, Uncle Arthur." It was the first time anyone had said that to him with such sincerity and simplicity. Arthur felt hot tears running down his face. "I love you too, Lily. So much." That night, when he returned home, Arthur found Brenda packing suitcases in the bedroom. "What are you doing?" he asked. "I'm going to my sister's house in Chicago," she replied without looking at him. "I need some time to think about our marriage." "Brenda." "No, Arthur. You made your choice. You chose that child and that old woman over your own wife. Now I'm making mine. It doesn't have to be this way. There's room in my life for everyone." Brenda stopped packing and turned to him. "No, there isn't. You've completely changed. You're not the man I married anymore." "Maybe you're right. Maybe I've changed for the better. Or for the worse. Only time will tell." She snapped the suitcase shut. "I'll be in Chicago for a week. When I get back, I want your final answer. It's either me or them. I can't share my husband with ghosts from your past anymore." After Brenda left, Arthur was alone in the large, silent house. He walked through the luxurious rooms, looking at expensive objects he had bought over the years, paintings that decorated the walls, furniture that impressed visitors. Everything seemed devoid of meaning. He picked up the phone and called Robert Adler, his personal lawyer. "Robert, I need to speed up Lily's adoption process, and I want to start the separation papers with Brenda." "Arthur, are you sure about this?" Those are two very big decisions to make at the same time. I've never been more sure of anything in my life. On Friday morning, Arthur was in his office when he received a call that would change everything. Mr. Blackwood, this is Rosa, the nurse. Mrs. Ida is awake and asking to speak with you. She's very lucid, but I think it's important you come soon. Arthur left everything at the office and rushed to the shack. He found Ida sitting up in bed, propped against pillows, with Lily by her side. The old woman was visibly weak, but her eyes shone with a clarity he hadn't seen in days. "My dear boy," she said when she saw him enter, "sit here beside me." Arthur approached. Ida took his hand with her trembling ones. "I need to tell you something important before it's too late," she whispered, "about your parents." Arthur tensed. This was a topic they had never discussed in depth. All he knew was that he had been abandoned at the orphanage at the age of 5. "What about them?" "I knew your mother, Arthur. Her name was Carmen. She worked in a textile factory here in Oak Ridge. She was very young, only 17 when you were born." Arthur felt the world spin. He would finally get answers about his origins. "She didn't abandon you out of malice, my son. She was very sick with tuberculosis. Your father had disappeared when he found out about the pregnancy. She had no family, no money to get treatment and take care of you." "What happened to her?" Ida squeezed his hand. "She died 6 months after leaving you at the orphanage. But before that, she asked me to look after you. She said you were the most precious thing she had in the world." Tears streamed down Arthur's face. "Why did you never tell me this before?" "Because you were building a new life. I thought it would be cruel to bring back that pain. But now you need to know that you were loved from the very first day of your life." Ida turned to Lily, who was listening in silence. "And you, my little princess, you need to know that you have the best father in the world, a man who knows the pain of loneliness and will never let you go through it." "I already know, Grandma," Lily said, hugging Arthur. "Uncle Arthur is the best daddy in the universe." Over the next few hours, Ida told stories about Arthur's mother, about his first years at the orphanage, about how she tried to make up for the lack of maternal affection he felt. They were hours of revelations that filled voids in his soul that had existed for decades. As the sun began to set, Ida was visibly tired. "Arthur," she said, "I have one last thing to give you." With trembling hands, she opened a small shoebox that was under the bed. From inside, she took out a yellowed photograph and a small cloth-wrapped bundle. "Your mother gave me this before she passed. She told me to give it to you when you were old enough to understand." The photo showed a young dark-haired woman with large eyes holding a baby in her arms. She was smiling, despite the evident paleness of her face. On the back, written in a shaky hand, "For my beloved son, Arthur. Mommy will always love you. Carmen." The cloth bundle contained a small wooden crucifix and a simple wedding band. She wanted you to know that even though she couldn't be with you, she never stopped loving you, and that she always prayed you would find a family that would give you the love she couldn't. Arthur held the objects with trembling hands, decades of pain and abandonment being redefined in that moment. "Ida, how can I ever thank you for all this? For keeping these memories, for taking care of me at the orphanage, for—" "You've already thanked me, my son," she interrupted, "by giving love to our Lily, by being for her the father I always dreamed you would find." That night, Lily slept nestled between Arthur and Ida on the small bed. It was an image that represented 3 generations united by love and pain, each having found in the others the family that fate had denied them for so long. But Arthur knew this might be one of the last nights the 3 of them would have together. Ida was saying goodbye, and he would need to find the strength to help Lily through the pain that was to come. When Lily fell asleep, Ida whispered. Promise you'll tell her about me. That you'll say Grandma always loved her more than anything in the world. I promise, Arthur whispered back. And I'll tell her about you too. About how you were the first person to show me I had value. Ida smiled and closed her eyes, her breathing becoming slower and more peaceful. Arthur stayed awake all night, holding the two most important people in his life, knowing that soon he would be responsible for carrying all that love alone. Ida passed away on a quiet July morning, while Lily slept peacefully beside her. Arthur was awake, holding the old woman's hand as she took her last breath, a serene smile on her face, as if she could finally rest in peace. Explaining to a 4-year-old child that her great-grandmother had gone to heaven to be with Grandpa was one of the most difficult experiences of Arthur's life. Lily cried a lot, but with the natural acceptance of children, she gradually understood that Ida wouldn't be coming back, but that she was in a place where she no longer felt pain. Is she going to take care of Mommy and Daddy in heaven? Lily asked through her tears. She will, my little one, and she'll be watching over you too, always. The funeral was simple but dignified. Arthur arranged everything, a beautiful casket, flowers, a respectful ceremony. To his surprise, several people who had known Ida from her cleaning jobs around town attended. They all had stories about her kindness and dedication. Ida always helped those in need, said an elderly woman, even when she had nothing herself. After the burial, Arthur took Lily to his house for the first time. The girl was impressed by the size of the house, but mostly by the silence. "Why is it so quiet here, Uncle Arthur?" she asked, her voice echoing in the entrance hall. "Because there have always been very few people living here, my dear." Arthur had prepared a special room for her, painted light pink, with white furniture, toys, children's books, and a canopy bed that looked like it belonged to a princess. When Lily saw the room, her eyes filled with tears. "This is all mine, all yours." She ran through the entire house, exploring every room, amazed by the dimensions, the luxurious furniture, the big television, the equipped kitchen. But when nighttime came, at bedtime, she didn't want to stay alone in her new room. "Can I sleep with you?" she asked, clutching a doll Arthur had bought her. "Of course you can." For the first few weeks, Lily slept in Arthur's bed every night. She had frequent nightmares, waking up crying and calling for Grandma Ida, and would only calm down when she felt she wasn't alone. Arthur enrolled Lily in the best preschool in Oak Ridge. On the first day, she was nervous and shy, clinging to his hand. "What if the other kids don't like me?" she asked. "It's impossible not to like you, my little one. You're special." The adjustment at school was easier than expected. Lily was a naturally sociable and caring child. She soon made friends and began to develop rapidly. Her teacher, Mrs. Martin, was impressed by the girl's intelligence and emotional maturity. "It's rare to see a child so young with so much empathy and responsibility," she commented to Arthur at a parent-teacher meeting. "She looks after the younger children, shares everything she has, never throws a tantrum. She's an exceptional child." Arthur felt pride swelling in his chest. Lily was flourishing, transforming from a scared, malnourished child into a confident and happy little girl. But not everything was easy. The adoption process was facing bureaucratic hurdles. The fact that Arthur was single, the separation papers from Brenda were still in progress, complicated matters. "Unfortunately, there's a bias against single adoptive parents," Robert Adler explained in a meeting at his office. "Especially men. The judiciary still has a conservative view on these issues, but Lily has been living with me for 2 months. She's happy, healthy, doing well in school." "I know, Arthur, but legally, you're still just a temporary guardian. For the adoption to be approved, They'll require psychological evaluations, social worker visits, interviews. It's a lengthy process. The legal uncertainty worried Arthur. What if they decided he wasn't fit to be an adoptive father? What if they took Lily away from him? It was during this period of anxiety that Brenda returned from Chicago. Arthur was playing in the garden with Lily on a Saturday afternoon when he heard the sound of the familiar car. Lily was teaching him how to make soap bubbles, laughing loudly whenever she managed to make a big one. "Uncle Arthur, look at this giant bubble," she shouted, chasing the bubbles around the garden. That's when Brenda appeared at the back door of the house. Lily stopped playing and hid behind Arthur. She had never seen Brenda, but she sensed from the tension in the air that something was different. "So this is her," Brenda said, observing the girl with an indescribable expression. "Lily, this is—" "Brenda," Arthur said, placing a protective hand on the child's shoulder. "Hi," Lily said shyly. Brenda approached, crouching down to the girl's level. To Arthur's surprise, her expression softened slightly. "Hi, Lily. You're very pretty." "Thank you. You're pretty too." For a few minutes, there was an almost normal interaction between them. Brenda asked about school, about her toys, about what Lily liked to do most. The girl answered with her natural politeness, but maintained a cautious distance. "Lily, how about you go play inside? I need to talk to Uncle Arthur," Brenda said. After Lily went into the house, Brenda turned to Arthur. "She's adorable," she admitted. "I wasn't expecting that." "What were you expecting?" "I don't know. A troubled, traumatized, difficult child, but she seems normal, happy. She is happy, here, with a family that loves her." Brenda was silent for a moment. "Arthur, I've spent these weeks thinking about our marriage, our life together, and I've come to a conclusion." He waited, tense. "Our marriage really is over. You were right. For years, we've just been two strangers sharing a house and a bank account." "Brenda, no, let me finish. I don't love you anymore, Arthur. And you haven't loved me for a long time either. We stayed together out of convenience, fear of change, for social status." She looked towards the house where Lily could be seen playing in the living room. "But seeing you with this child, it's the first time in years I've seen you truly happy, truly alive." Arthur didn't know what to say. "I'll agree to the separation," Brenda continued. "No fights, no disputes over assets. We each keep what's ours and that's it. But I have one condition, which is, I want to help with Lily's adoption." Arthur was completely taken aback. "What do you mean?" "Robert explained the difficulties you're facing as a single man. If I testify in favor of the adoption, if I say that I support your decision and that I recognize Lily as family, it could make things easier." "Why would you do that?" Brenda smiled sadly. "Because despite all our problems, you've always been a good man, Arthur. And that child deserves a chance to be happy. If you can give her that, then I'll help." That night, after Brenda had gone to the guest room, Arthur was putting Lily to bed when she asked, a question that caught him off guard. "Uncle Arthur, is Brenda going to live here with us?" "No, my little one. She's going to live somewhere else." "Doesn't she like children?" Lily's simple, direct question was like a revelation to Arthur. She had perceived with a child's intuition that there was something fundamental separating him from Brenda. "It's complicated, Lily, but the important thing is that I like children very much, especially you. And I like you very much too. You're the best daddy in the world." Daddy. She had called him Daddy, no longer Uncle Arthur, but Daddy. Arthur felt hot tears running down his face. "I love you so much, my daughter," he said, hugging her tightly. "I love you too, Daddy." That night, for the first time in months, Lily slept peacefully in her own room. And Arthur, lying in his empty bed, finally felt complete. He had found his purpose in life, to be the father he never had, to give Lily all the love he had dreamed of receiving when he was a lost and lonely child. The adoption process wasn't finished yet. There were still obstacles to overcome, but he knew he would do whatever it took to ensure Lily stayed with him forever. She wasn't just a child he had saved from misery. She was his daughter, and he was finally the father he had always dreamed of being. 3 months after Ida's passing, as the Oak Ridge winter began to give way to the first signs of spring, Arthur received a call that would change everything again. It was from Robert Adler, and the urgent tone in the lawyer's voice put him on immediate alert. "Arthur, we have a serious problem with Lily's adoption." "What kind of problem?" "A relative has surfaced. A great-uncle of the child, the deceased grandfather's brother. He's claiming custody of her." Arthur felt the world spin. He was in his office at the company when he got the call and had to lean on his desk to keep from falling. "What do you mean, surfaced? From where?" "He lives in Rockford. He said he found out about Lily's existence through acquaintances here in Oak Ridge, and that, as the closest blood relative, he has a legal right to custody." "But where was he when the girl was starving and living in that misery?" "That's the issue, Arthur. Apparently he didn't know she existed, or at least that's what he's claiming." Arthur closed his eyes, trying to process the information. Lily was happy, healthy, developing wonderfully. How could someone want to take her from an environment where she was flourishing? What kind of man is this great-uncle? Julian Shaw, 58, a retired construction worker, lives alone in a simple house in Rockford. According to preliminary information, he has no criminal record and a basic retirement income. "Robert, I am not handing Lily over to a stranger. She is my daughter now." "I understand your feelings, Arthur, but legally, the situation is complicated. Blood relatives have priority over adoptive parents, even when the child is already settled in a new home." That afternoon, when Arthur went to pick Lily up from school, she noticed immediately that something was wrong. "Why are you sad, Daddy?" she asked in the car as they drove home. Arthur looked at her in the rearview mirror. Lily was wearing her school uniform, her hair in 2 pigtails that she had asked Rosa, the housekeeper, to do for her. She was holding a drawing she had made in art class. "I'm not sad, sweetheart, just thinking about some things from work." But Lily was perceptive. During dinner, she was quiet, watching him with her big, intelligent eyes. "Daddy, are you going to leave me?" The direct question caught him off guard. "Why would you think that?" "Because you look the same as when Grandma Ida got sick. You look worried and sad." Arthur got up from his chair and picked her up. "Lily, listen very carefully to what I'm about to say. I will never leave you, ever. You are my daughter, and I am your father. Forever. Promise?" "I promise." But even as he made the promise, Arthur knew he might not be able to keep it if the court ruled against them. 2 days later, Robert scheduled a meeting with Julian Shaw in a neutral office. Arthur arrived at the meeting tense and defensive, expecting to find a greedy man interested only in taking advantage of the situation. To his surprise, Julian Shaw was a simple man, with graying hair, calloused hands from hard work, and a sincere expression on his wrinkled face. "Mr. Blackwood," he said, standing to greet him, "I know this situation isn't easy for either of us." "Then why are you doing this?" "Lily is happy with me. She has everything she needs." Julian sighed deeply. "May I explain my story?" For the next hour, Julian told his side of the story. He had moved to Rockford 20 years ago for a construction project and had lost touch with his family. He knew his brother had passed away, but didn't know he had left any descendants. "I found out about Lily through a Mr. Vicente, who works at the cemetery where Ida was buried. He's known me for a long time and mentioned the situation. And why do you want custody of her now?" "Because she's my family, Mr. Blackwood. The only family I have left in this world." Arthur studied the man's face, looking for signs of lies or bad faith, but found only sincerity and a deep sadness. "Julian, are you married? Do you have children? Are you in a position to care for a 4-year-old child?" "I've been a widower for 10 years. My wife and I were never able to have children. I have a modest retirement income, but it's enough to live on. And most importantly, Mr. Blackwood, I have a lot of love to give." The conversation went on for hours. Julian asked questions about Lily, about how she was adjusting, about her needs. To Arthur's horror, the man seemed genuinely concerned about the child's well-being. "Mr. Blackwood, may I meet her? Not to take her away from you immediately, but just to see her, to meet my relative." Robert and Arthur exchanged glances. Legally, it was a reasonable request. Refusing could be seen as an attempt at parental alienation. "All right," Arthur agreed reluctantly, "but I'll be present the entire time." The following Saturday, Julian came to visit Lily. Arthur had prepared the girl for the meeting, explaining that a relative from Grandma Ida's family wanted to meet her. When Julian arrived at the house, bringing a simple doll and a box of chocolates, Lily hid behind Arthur. "No need to be scared, little one," Julian said, crouching down to her level. "I'm your great-uncle Julian, your grandpa's brother, whom you never got to meet." Lily looked at him with curiosity. "You knew my grandpa?" "I did. He was my younger brother. He was a good, hard-working man, just like you seem to be." During the 3-hour visit, Arthur watched the interaction between Lily and Julian. Closely, the man was kind, patient, and clearly charmed by the girl. Lily, in turn, maintained her natural politeness, but didn't show the spontaneity she had with Arthur. "Uncle Julian, does your house have a yard?" Lily asked during lunch. "It does, a small house, but with a big yard where you can plant flowers and play." "That's cool, but I like my house here." "It's a very beautiful house indeed," Julian agreed, looking meaningfully at Arthur. When the visit ended, Julian said goodbye to Lily affectionately, but didn't pressure her to show affection she didn't feel. "Can I come back and visit you again?" he asked. "You can," Lily said politely, but moved closer to Arthur. After Julian left, Arthur sat with Lily in the living room. "What did you think of Uncle Julian?" "He seems nice, but I want to stay with you, Daddy." "And you will, my daughter." But that night, after Lily was asleep, Arthur received a call from Robert with devastating news. "Arthur, the judge in charge of the case has ordered a full psychosocial evaluation of everyone involved. During this process, which could take up to 3 months, Lily will be under temporary shared custody." "What does that mean?" "It means she'll spend a few days a week with you and a few days with Julian. It's for the court to assess which environment is better for her." Arthur felt like he had been punched in the stomach. "Robert, this will traumatize the child. She just lost her great-grandmother. She just became emotionally stable." "I know, Arthur. But it's the judge's decision. Starting next week, Lily will spend 3 days with you and 4 days with Julian." "What if she doesn't want to go?" "It's not her decision. It's the court's." That night, Arthur stayed awake on the porch, looking out at the garden where he had played with Lily so many times in recent months. The possibility of losing her was unbearable, but he knew the legal battle would be long and difficult. In the morning, when Lily woke up and ran to the kitchen as she always did, Arthur had to find a strength he didn't know he possessed to give her the news that would once again change her entire life. Explaining to a 4-year-old that she would have to split her time between 2 houses was one of the hardest conversations Arthur had ever had. Lily listened to him in silence, her big eyes filling with tears as he tried to use simple words to explain a situation that even he couldn't accept. "But I don't want to go to Uncle Julian's house," she said, her voice trembling. "I want to stay here with you, Daddy." "I know, my daughter. I want you to stay here with me too. But the judge needs to get to know both of you better before deciding where you'll live forever. And if I'm very good, can I come back soon?" Arthur's heart broke at Lily's innocent question. "It's not about being good, my little one. It's about grown-up things you don't need to worry about." The first separation happened on a Monday. Julian arrived promptly at 9 in the morning to pick up Lily, who had packed a small backpack with her favorite toys, clothes, and the doll Ida had given her. "Don't forget to brush your teeth before bed," Arthur said, hugging her tightly. "And you don't forget to water the flowers we planted," she replied, trying to be brave. Watching Julian's car drive away with Lily inside was torture for Arthur. For the first time since she had come into his life, the house was silent and empty again. For the next 4 days, Arthur could barely concentrate on work. He called Julian daily to check on Lily, and the news was conflicting. "She's adjusting well," Julian would say. "She likes the yard, the chickens I'm raising, but she cries at bedtime, asking for her daddy. Let me talk to her." "Arthur, I think it's better not to. The social worker said it might confuse her even more." When Lily finally returned home on Friday, Arthur greeted her at the door with an anxiety he couldn't hide. The girl ran into his arms and didn't let go for long minutes. "I missed you, Daddy," she said, her face buried in his chest. "I missed you too, my daughter. How was it at Uncle Julian's house?" "It was different. He's nice, but he's not you." Over the weekend they spent together, Arthur noticed subtle changes in Lily. She was clingier, more insecure, and woke up during the night calling for him. The separation was clearly affecting her emotional development. "Daddy, do I have to go again next week?" "I do, my dear, but just for a few more days." "And after that?" Arthur didn't know what to say. The legal process was dragging on, and with each psychological evaluation, each social report, his hope dwindled. The second separation was even harder. Lily cried when Julian arrived to pick her up, clinging to Arthur's legs. "I don't want to go. I want to stay with my daddy." "Lily, you have to go," Julian said with a patience Arthur grudgingly admitted. "But you know you'll be back with your daddy in a few days." "Promise?" "I promise." During this second stay, with Julian, something started to shift. When Lily returned on Friday, she spoke less about her experiences. She was more withdrawn. "What happened, my daughter?" "Nothing," she said, but Arthur sensed she was holding something back. It was only on Sunday, during a quiet moment in the garden, that the truth came out. "Daddy, Uncle Julian said I might have to live with him forever." Arthur felt his blood run cold. "He said that?" "He said the judge thinks it's better for a child to be with blood family." "What's blood family, Daddy?" With infinite patience, Arthur explained the concept of blood family versus adoptive family, trying to make a 4-year-old understand legal complexities that even he didn't accept. "But you're my daddy in my heart," Lily said. "Doesn't that count?" "It counts for a lot, my daughter, more than anything." The following Monday, Robert Adler called with more bad news. "Arthur, I received the first report from the social worker. She's leaning in favor of Julian." "On what grounds?" "Mainly the issue of Lily having family roots with him. And also, well, there are comments about your status as a single man with no prior experience with children." "But Lily is happy with me. Anyone can see that." "I know, but the legal system sometimes prioritizes other factors." Arthur made a drastic decision. He hired a second lawyer, a specialist in child advocacy, Dr. Mark Fisher, known for fighting difficult cases. "Dr. Fisher, I need your help. I cannot lose this child. Tell me the whole story, from the beginning." Arthur recounted everything, from his first encounter with Lily at the bakery to the current situation. Dr. Fisher listened attentively, taking notes. Arthur, I'll be frank. Legally, your situation is complicated. But there are precedents where the child's emotional well-being has prevailed over blood ties. What do I need to do? First, we will thoroughly document Lily's adaptation to your home, reports from her school, psychological assessments, testimonies from people who interact with you both. Second, we will investigate more deeply the conditions Julian can offer. In the following weeks, Dr. Fisher coordinated a detailed investigation. He interviewed Lily's teacher, Mrs. Martin, who provided an emotional testimony about the girl's development. Lily has blossomed since she's been with Mr. Blackwood, she said. She came here a shy and insecure child and has transformed into a confident, joyful girl. On the YouTube days she's with her great-uncle, she always comes back more introverted. Dr. Fisher also interviewed Dr. Morris, who had overseen Ida's treatment. Arthur showed an exceptional commitment to the family's well-being, the doctor attested. He spared no expense or effort to ensure that both Ida and Lily received the best possible care. But the most significant turning point came when Dr. Fisher decided to dig deeper into Julian's past. I found something interesting, he said in a meeting at his office. Julian Shaw had a history of alcohol problems. He was admitted to rehab clinics twice between 2015 and 2018. Is he recovered? Apparently so. There are no recent records of problems, but it's relevant information that could affect the judge's decision. Arthur felt torn. On one hand, this information could help his case. On the other, he had begun to recognize that Julian genuinely cared for Lily. Confirmation of this ambiguity came on a Thursday afternoon when Julian called Arthur directly, his voice thick with emotion. Arthur, I need to talk to you. About Lily. What happened? Is she okay? She's physically fine, but she cries every night. Yesterday she asked me if I was going to steal her from her daddy forever. Arthur was silent. Arthur, can I come to your house tonight? We need to talk. Just the two of us. No lawyers, no judge. Just two men who care about this child. You can come. That night, after Lily was asleep, Arthur and Julian sat on the porch, two steaming mugs of coffee between them. The silence lasted for long minutes before Julian spoke. Arthur, I never wanted to hurt this child. I just wanted to have a family. I understand. But seeing her suffer, seeing how much she loves you, this isn't right. Arthur looked at the older man, seeing the sincere pain in his face. What are you saying, Julian? I'm saying that maybe I'm being selfish. Maybe the love I have to give isn't enough if she's already found the father she needed. It was the most crucial moment of the entire process, and Arthur knew that the next words he said could determine Lily's future forever. Arthur looked at Julian for a long moment, weighing each word before speaking. Lily's future was in the hands of these two men who, in different ways, had learned to love her. Julian, can I make you a proposal? The older man looked up, waiting. What if, instead of fighting over Lily, we became an extended family? You would be her great-uncle, present in her life, but she would live with me. Julian was silent for several minutes, stirring the now cold coffee. You would accept that, letting me be a part of her life? Lily has lost so many people. Ida, her parents. She doesn't need to lose you too. She just needs stability, a permanent home. And you don't think my presence would interfere? I think every child deserves to have as many people who love them around as possible. And so, in a simple conversation between two men on the porch of a house in Oak Ridge, Lily's fate was sealed in a way no court could have orchestrated better. The next day, Julian went to Robert Adler and formally withdrew his custody claim. In return, Arthur signed an agreement guaranteeing Julian regular visitation rights and participation in important decisions regarding Lily's education and health. When the news reached Lily, Her reaction was pure and simple joy. "Does this mean I don't have to stay away from you anymore, Daddy?" "Never again, my daughter." "And will Uncle Julian still be my uncle?" "He will. He'll come visit us, and you can go visit him too whenever you want." "Good. I like both of you, but I want to live here." The official adoption process was finalized on a sunny day in September. In the courtroom, Arthur held Lily's hand as the judge read the decree that officially made them father and daughter. "As of this date, Lily Santos Blackwood is legally the daughter of Arthur Blackwood," the magistrate declared. Lily didn't fully understand the legal significance of the moment, but she understood something. Very important was happening by the way Arthur was crying with happiness. "Am I Lily Blackwood now?" she asked. "Now you're Lily Blackwood," he confirmed, picking her up. "And you're my daddy forever?" "Forever and always." The celebration party was small but meaningful. Julian, Robert Adler, Dr. Fisher, Mrs. Martin from school, Dr. Morris, and a few employees from Arthur's company who had followed the journey were all there. Brenda, surprisingly, also showed up. She had become an occasional but warm presence in Lily's life, taking on an almost maternal role that surprised everyone, especially herself. "You know, I never thought I was capable of getting attached to a child," she confessed to Arthur during the party. "But Lily is special. She melts any heart." "She has that gift," Arthur agreed, watching Lily play in the garden with the other children. 6 months after the official adoption, Arthur received an unexpected call. It was from a local newspaper journalist who had heard about his and Lily's story through acquaintances. "Mr. Blackwood, we'd like to do a story about you. It's inspiring. I'm not sure we want the exposure," he replied, instinctively protective. "It would be a way to show that later adoption works, that families can be formed in unconventional ways." Arthur talked to Lily about the possibility of the article. Now, 5 years old, she had become an articulate and confident child. "Do you want other kids to know they can have new families too?" he asked her. "That would be nice, wouldn't it?" "It would. Let's tell the newspaper." The article was published in a special edition on adoption. The accompanying photo showed Arthur and Lily in the backyard, her on the swing he had installed, both smiling naturally. The response was bigger than they expected. Arthur received dozens of calls from people interested in adoption, asking for advice and encouragement. Lily, in turn, became a small celebrity at school, proud of her story. "My dad saved me," she would tell her classmates. "And I saved him too." That sentence, repeated by her teacher at a parent-teacher meeting, stuck in Arthur's mind. It was true. They had saved each other. On the first anniversary of the official adoption, Arthur organized a small ceremony in their garden. Together, they planted an apple tree in honor of the tree under which Lily used to shelter at the shack where she lived. With Ida. "Why an apple tree, Daddy?" "Because Grandma Ida always said you liked to sit under the tree at the shack. Now you'll have a new apple tree, in a new house, with a new life. But without forgetting Grandma Ida." "Never forgetting Grandma Ida." Julian was present at the ceremony. In the months following their agreement, he had become a constant and beloved presence in Lily's life. He visited every Sunday, took her on outings to Rockford, taught her how to care for small animals, and shared stories about the Santos family she had never known. "Uncle Julian, tell me the story of my great-grandpa again," Lily would ask during Sunday lunches. "Your great-grandfather was a hard-working man, just like you're a hard-working girl at school," he would begin, patiently repeating stories that gave Lily a sense of identity and belonging. Life had found a perfect balance. Arthur had expanded his company, hiring more employees and taking on new contracts. Lily excelled in school, made friends easily, and showed an emotional intelligence rare for her age. One afternoon in December, almost a year after the adoption was finalized, Arthur was in his office when he got a call from the school. Mr. Blackwood, everything's fine with Lily, but she did something today that we thought you should know about." His heart skipped a beat. What happened? She helped a new child who was crying because her parents had separated. Lily told her that sometimes families fall apart, but a new family always shows up when you need it most. Then she spent the whole recess playing with the girl to make her feel better. Arthur smiled. Lily was passing on the wisdom she had acquired through her own journey of pain and healing. That night at dinner, he told Lily about the call from school. "You helped your classmate today. She was sad like I used to be when I didn't have a family. So I remembered that you always say, everyone deserves love." "And what else did you tell her?" "That sometimes we lose people we love, but new people always appear to love us too, just like you appeared for me." Arthur got up from the table and hugged Lily, his heart overflowing with pride and love. "You are a very wise little girl. I learned from the best dad in the world." That night, after Lily was asleep, Arthur went out to the garden and sat under the small apple tree they had planted. The stars shone brightly in the Oak Ridge sky, and he thought about how much his life had changed since that cold June morning when he saw a little girl begging at the bakery door. Lily was no longer that scared, malnourished child. She was a happy, healthy girl, full of life and love to give, and he was no longer the lonely, emotionally distant man he had been for so many years. They had found each other at the exact moment they both needed it most. Two wounded hearts that healed each other, two incomplete lives that became a perfect family. Arthur looked at Lily's bedroom window, where a soft light remained on. She still didn't like to sleep in total darkness. In a few years, she would be a teenager, then a young adult. There would be challenges, joys, sorrows, achievements. But one thing he knew with absolute certainty: they would face it all together, as father and daughter, as the family they chose to be, and somewhere he was sure that Ida was smiling, knowing that the lost boy she had helped at the orphanage had become the father she always dreamed he would be, and that the great-granddaughter she had loved so much was finally safe in the arms of someone who loved her unconditionally. The story was complete. The circle of love had closed, and in Oak Ridge, in a house with a garden and a growing apple tree, a family built not on blood, but on heart, lived happily ever after. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to my channel. I promise to bring you videos every day that will make your life happier. Comment what you thought of my story by giving it a rating from 0 to 10, and thank you very much.